Welcome to the Ultimate Flicks Guide. So basically, in this guide, I'm going to be going through everything you need to know about flicks, how to do flicks. I'm going to go over the specific flicks, the ones that I think are the most useful in game, that you should practice and kind of get down so you can start winning your games and start using these flicks. So, by far and away, the most important part of flicks is not even any flick itself, right? It's the dribbling that precedes the flicking, right? If we don't have the ball on top of our car and we don't have good control of it, we're never going to be able to go for a flick. If you're not able to do this kind of motion in free play, and of course in real rank games, how are you ever going to flick, right? You can never do it if you're not able to control the ball like this. So the first and most important, arguably, step is to practice your dribbling. You have to get so good at dribbling that you need to be able to just control this ball for years. If you really want to get good at flicks, you don't have to be able to control this ball on top of your car for as long as you possibly can, right? So now, how would you go about practicing this? Firstly, you can do what I'm literally doing right here in free play. Just get the ball on top of your car and just drive around it for as long as you can, right? And eventually you're gonna drop it, but over time the time that you can hold it on top of your car for is gonna go a lot longer, right? Maybe at first you get like 10 seconds if you're low ranked. Maybe sometimes you get 20, maybe you get 30. Maybe eventually you can get like a minute or multiple minutes, right? The progress is going to be very big on this, so like just do this. This is one of the drills that I've done a lot to practice. And the second thing that I recommend is doing this training pack made by Verge, which is dribble training. The code for this will also be in the description. So if you go into this map, this will have very easy dribbles like this, where you have now 0 seconds, right? So if you drop the ball here, it's not a goal, right? And you'll have to do it again. So you have to dribble the full field, and then you have to come over here, and then now, you can flick it in, or at the crossbar. And then you can basically, again, different kinds of setups, okay? We have dribbling there. Okay, now we have dribbling over here. We gotta, go around this ball, be able to change directions, right? We have to move directions, very important. Now this is really good. Again, we got catches, right? Because in games, we're not always just going to have the ball in stationary positions. Sometimes it's going to fly towards us. So then we're going to be able to have to be able to catch the ball, right? So I think this pack is really good for kind of natural situations, right? Because like they just boom the ball from their corner for a clear, and you have to be able to catch this and score, right? This one's super awkward, right? This one is going to be a lot harder for a lot of you in the mid ranks. Like that was a super hard one. I'm actually kind of surprised I got it first try, but the thing is, this is just a bunch of practice. So the more time you put into packs like this, well, this pack really, I don't have any other ones that I would really recommend, but this pack and just a free play drill, you will get really good at dribbling. And once you can dribble this kind of balls really consistently, then you can really start focusing on your flicks, right? Because as I said, if you can't dribble the ball like this consistently, like if you can't do that pack, for example, then there's no point for you to learn any flicks, right? So we have to get this part down first. Now, if we've got the dribbling down, we need to get to the flicks. So I'm going to be basically starting from easiest and kind of most common to the more difficult and the kind of less used. So firstly, we're going to start with the absolute basic, the staple, the front flip flick, right? It looks something like this, if done correctly. Now, the thing with the front flip flick is that it's very simple, right? It's simple, just a front flip. We're not using air roll, we're not twisting our car, we're not doing any type of jumps and then flipping. We're literally just doing the motion of the ball on top of our car, right? And then we just front flip. Not like that, but like this. We just front flip, right? This is the best flick for kind of beginners to flicks and dribbling in general and stuff. So I would recommend this. Is very good in the lower ranks, when you don't have kind of all types of flicks down yet, right? You don't have incredible car control, you don't have best flip control, so you're not gonna be able to do every flick, like for example like the musty flicks and like the 45 degrees. So the way I would go in the order of learning as well, right? You learn dribbling, great. Now we should learn the front flip flick, right? But the thing is with the front flip flick, there are a lot of things that people can do wrong. So for example, like that, if you flip too early, you can have this kind of thing happen, where it's a delayed flick, right? Where you're not actually hitting the ball at first, but then the nose of your car, as it comes on the end of the flip, will hit the ball. Now, what is causing that? It's the ball being too far ahead of us. Okay, that wasn't actually too far ahead, but if the ball is like too much on the nose of our car, we're not going to hit it with the actual like front, but then instead our nose, when it's coming back a second time, is going to hit it, right? So we want to avoid that, because when we're dribbling, we never want to have the ball directly in the middle of the car like this. You see how it's like, okay, it's kind of hard to do, but like you never want to have it on the kind of top part, like windshield and like left part of the windshield, right? Like you don't want to have it directly like be under the ball, if that makes sense. So you want to have it on the nose. So you want to have it like this on the nose. And if you look at the white circle around the ball, you kind of want to have your like your front of your car be on the edge of that white circle that's under the ball, right? So like you never want to be right in the middle of the circle like this. Like this doesn't help, because now look, if I try to front flip, I'm always going to just flip under the ball and nothing's going to happen, right? So this is a very common mistake. People get the ball directly on top of their car like this, and then they flick. I mean, it kind of flicked, right? But like it's this is never a goal in any type of game. So what we want to do is we want to, again, while we're practicing our dribbling, practice this front part like that. Because this is the sweet spot. This is the sweet spot where we're going to be able to do any form of flick. So now we do front flip. Whoa, look, so much more power than before, right? So, again, while we're doing the dribbling training, try to get it at the front. And then, once we've done that, we can just try and start doing these front flip flicks. See, that's bad. So now we do it again. We practice a lot. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to do it wrong, but then we're going to do it right. And it's very, very just kind of reps, right? So what I would do, the drill that I did to get good at kind of all overall flicks, is I would come into free play. The ball's in the middle. Okay, we come over here. We go. We try to do a flick. We do it. Okay, reset the ball. Go again. Right? Get the ball on top of our car. Flick. Okay, great, we did it. Okay, go again. And this is the basically the only drill that I did for learning most flicks, right? Because now, once you're able to do this front flip consistently, like this, like you go like I'm doing right now, you do this drill, and you're like scoring a lot, you're consistently getting the flick. Because the thing is, scoring actually matters a lot less than you might think. Like, if you get a flick like, okay, that's not it, but if you get like a flick, into the backboard, for example, and it goes like middle, it's not honestly the end of the world. Obviously, if you're playing ones, it kind of is. You want to, get them on target. So I would, obviously want to get them on target. But like a pass like that is super, super good as well. Like if you're first man and your teammates behind you, they're gonna be able to shoot this ball, off of the rebound, and you're gonna create a lot of chances that way as well. So don't be shy of like getting powerful flicks and having them go over. It's not the end of the world, right? I would rather you do too hard of a flick than too soft of a flick, like this, where like you're just not really getting any sort of power. So yeah, just do this drill with the front flip flick until you can consistently get these flicks. And once you've done that, you can move on to what is called the diagonal flick, or the speed flip. If you know how to speed flip, you should be doing the speed flip in this, but if you don't know, then you could just do this kind of normal diagonal flip. I'm actually really bad at doing a diagonal flip because I have so much muscle memory doing a speed flip that I actually like struggle. Okay, there we go. I think I figured out. Yeah, that's how you do it. So you can either just do this regular diagonal flip, or if you know how to speed flip, if you're a bit higher ranked, you can do the speed flip, because it is better. Obviously it gives you more speed, so you have a better recovery, and it'll give the ball more power because you're also going a little faster. So the way you do this is the same thing, right? Same thing. We get the ball on top of our car in the front part, and then we just flip. We flip directly under this ball. So it would look something like this, right? And you might think it's not that different from the front flip, and you'd be correct, right? There's not a big difference here. But the biggest thing is that your kind of recovery is speedier. So the flick will not always be a lot more powerful than a front flip. Like if I do a front flip again, right? Like that doesn't seem that much slower, right? Than if I do this. But look at my speed. So if you look at my car, not the ball here for a second, right? Do the front flip flick. I have a much worse recovery rather than if I'm doing a speed flip flick. Because I'm ending pretty much, because I'm boosting as well, you know, I'm boosting while I'm flicking. I'm ending this flick supersonic. And this isn't even because of unlimited boost, right? If I have it on standard as well, and you know, I use all my boosts, like you don't need a lot of boost. If you have 12 boost, you can already get a pretty decent flick. Right, okay, I got another 12, but the thing is, I mean, you're also in games, you're gonna, you know, get a lot of boost back. You're never really gonna be flicking with directly 0, but like, with the speed flip one, you have a faster recovery since you're supersonic for longer after the kickoff, or after the flick has happened, right? So, again, with the speed flip one, you just come under it, and then you just try and speed flip through it. It's just a lot of practice. There's no real theory for this, right? Like, I could tell you, like, you know, get this on the exact pixel of your car on the nose. Like, it's just a bunch of bullshit, if anyone does tell you that, because I didn't think about any of this, right, when I was coming through the ranks. I saw that this was a drill that was, you know, kind of something that was among the pros. A lot of like pros at the time, like years ago, were doing this drill. So then I would just do this. And the thing is, like, you will get the sweet spot because you're gonna have a lot of flicks that are like this, right? You know, you're gonna be under the ball, you're gonna like have it too much in the middle of you, and you're just gonna flip under it and look like a goofball, right? But that's a process of learning. So and then you're gonna have a couple when you're like the ball falls off of your car like that. It's like too much on the nose. And you just have to be able to realize, like, okay, that's the mistake I made. All right, I'm doing a lot of my flicks are like this, so it's too much in the middle of my car. All right, I'm going to leave it now in front of my nose a little bit more. So I leave it on the nose, and guess what? Eventually you will find the sweet spot, regardless of, like, you know, like the kind of theory that you know about it. Because if you just do enough flicks, you will get really, really, like, into what the sweet spot is. And once you find the sweet spot, it'll kind of be muscle memory. So like now, like, I just kind of naturally do this, right? Like, I'm not looking at the ball very much. Like, I'm not thinking about where the white circle is. I'm not thinking about when it is in the sweet spot, really. Like, I just kind of like know it off the top of my head, which is the process that you're going to have, right? Like, you just need to put in a lot of reps, and that's basically just the gist of these two flicks, because there's not much technique to these. Some of the more advanced flicks, right, they have a lot more kind of nuance to them, but these are genuinely just one simple motion, and you just need to practice that motion until you can do it consistently, right? So again, just do this drill. I promise you, you will get better if you do this drill every day. Even in like 15 minutes straight of free play, just literally just coming under the ball, getting it in the sweet spot, flicking. Reset the ball, do it again. If you do that every day for like 15 minutes, I promise you in a week, your flicks will have completely transformed. That's just like, it's a fact. Like, it will happen. So now, we have to move on to the 45-degree flick. My personal favorite flick to use. And I think this is genuinely, arguably the best flick in the game for competitive Rocket League, so to speak. So basically, the 45-degree flick, right? Again, we get it on the sweet spot of our car, and then we have this motion where we're not gonna instantly flip. We're not instantly doing this one motion, but rather this one consists of a couple motions, right? So firstly, we jump. We have the ball on top of our car. Step one is to just jump, right? Have it speed spot and then jump. You got it? Now this part. Alright, once you have that part down, now you have to jump and then press arrow. Now, I press arrow left because I'm an arrow left player. If you press arrow right, you can do arrow right. I'm just more comfortable with the left, so most of the time I do left. If I need to, I will sometimes do right, but I'm much more comfortable with arrow left. So you do this kind of motion right here, right? A jump and then a little tap of arrow left. Now, step 3. You combine your joystick, right? You combine your joystick to the right. So you start doing this kind of tornado spin or whatever this is called, right? Where you're jumping, tapping arrow left, and you're moving your joystick to the right. And now if you're doing arrow right, you move your joystick to the left. Right? You're moving your joystick to the left. So you're doing either this one with arrow right, or this one with arrow left. Those are the two options, right? Now, once you have this down, what we can move on to is actually trying the flick. So you jump, press arrow left, right? And you move to the other side, like this. So we get this kind of motion. Like, we're kind of diagonal with the ball like this, or like with our car, in this kind of motion, right? I hope that makes sense. And then we backflip. So what this looks like all together, sweet spot. Okay, I misflipped. Cold hands. Right? That is a bit of a high flick, not a power flick, but that's basically the gist of it anyway, right? If we try the right side, didn't get any power there, because I'm bad on the right side, but this is basically the gist of it, right? Now if you, and the thing with this flick is that the more you have it on top of your car, again, like in the middle, the more you're going to get kind of pop flicks like this, where you're just going to get a lot of height but no power, which sometimes is what you want, maybe for, you know, a pass to your teammate, or, you know, you're just trying to get some height on it. But if you're trying to get power, again, the more towards the front it is, the better it is, right? So if we try this for power, it looks something like this. Right? Like, look at that. That is a banger. And no one in most ranks is saving that. Obviously it wasn't on target, but you get my point. So you kind of have to just combine every step here and kind of get this backflip down. Because the backflip is the most important part, arguably. Because the backflip is what gets us the power, right? So if we try this again, right? With the right side, you see how, like, we're backflipping and the nose is kind of the part that's hitting the ball. So like that is a really good flick. Not super powerful, but a lot of height to it, which is going to make people awkward. People are not expecting this, right? So even like getting height like this, like if you could do this consistently in a lot of ranks, these are still going to be goals, even though they're not very powerful. But of course, if you go for power, you'll score a lot more, right? But this is just a matter of a lot of practice. Like look at that flick. I promise you, no one is saving that in most ranks. Like, most ranks. No one is saving flicks like these. Now you might be thinking, oh, but these are all over the crossbar. Well, yeah, but like I said before with the front flip flick, if you were in that part as well, you don't need to always score with a flick, right? A lot of the time, what you can do, even in a 1v1 game, is you flick like this. Okay, well, that's just in. But let's say that was backboard, right? We did the flick, boom, okay, now we just go and get this boost. Or, you know, whichever side, right? Because you're gonna, let's say you shoot on the left side of the goal, right? Your opponent's gonna save it. You just instantly after the kind of flick, you just go and you get their boost. And now you have a starve, and then, you know, now you're over here again, and then now you can do the flick again. Boom, 101 kph in their net. So like, you don't always need to score with the first thing anyway. So it's like, I would not worry about getting too powerful flicks. You know, I would not worry about overshooting your flick. I would rather you overshoot a flick like this than to, you know, get a absolute like stinker of a flick like this, where like, okay, well, I did not mean to get that kind of power, but, you know, you get my point, right? Like, I would rather you get a really powerful flick than something like this, you know, where it's like, there's zero threat to that. Right? Or like something like that, like, those are don't really have any height or like any kind of power to them. So you would really want like either height and not, you know, if you get height, you don't need as much power. If you don't get any height, you need more power, right? But like these kinds of flicks right here, like they don't need insane power, right? So that's basically the gist of the 45-degree flick for the most part. And again, the only way to practice is to just do it a lot. So one thing that I also kind of forgot to mention for the previous two flicks is you do this drill, right? But you actually have to do them in game as well. right? If you only do them in the drill, but then in ranked you kind of like freeze up and you get scared and you don't do them, it's not gonna help you at all, right? So you need to actually have real repetitions of high quality, real rank games, right? You go in games and you tell yourself, I'm playing for improvement. I'm not playing for my rank. Maybe I'll lose some games because I'm going for a flick that I'm, practicing, and maybe I mess it up, and, maybe because of that, I lose a game. It's fine, it happens. Because over the long term, once I do get this down, right, once I do get enough practice in, I'm going to get all of those wins back that I lost, and I'm going to get like double, triple, quadruple, whatever. You're going to get more back because you're going to be so much better by that time. So then you're going to be able to just win games no matter what. So it's fine to like lose some games at first. It's completely acceptable to, you know, just go into ranked games and then, mess up flicks, right? You drop absolute stinkers. It happens. It's the only way to learn, right? Every single like best flicker in the world has eventually has at one point done this, you know, like they all have. So the point is less of, you know, we gotta get like the perfect technique, because the thing is like I could tell you, do this motion, do this kind of, jump, arrow left, move to the right, whatever. Like I could tell you the entire motion, but none of that matters if you're not actually doing them in ranked games, and of course the drill. Like if you're not practicing them yourself, you're never gonna, improve. So I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it is super, super, super important that if you take like anything away from this video, it is that like these flicks are hard at first, but they get easier by a lot over time, right? The more you do them, the better you will get by a lot. So that's enough yapping for the 45-degree flick. Now, the next flick is an interesting one, and it's the musty flick, right? And with the musty flick, I think it's genuinely one of the most versatile and one of the best flicks in the game, but I would not go and learn the musty flick until about like GC. I think below GC, the mechanical skill that people have, you don't really need a musty flick, firstly, to win games in that rank. It's very, very unnecessary. And secondly, you don't really have the skill to get really good musties. And now I know there's going to be people who are like, I'm plat 2, but I can musty flick consistently. No, you can't, bro. If you could, you weren't plat. You wouldn't be plat, right? But let's get on to the musty flick now. The thing about the musty flick, that the biggest tip I have to give for you, is that you shouldn't do the musty flick. And now a lot of you are going to be confused, like, what are you talking about? Well, what the musty flick actually is this motion, right? Where we put our nose down and then we flip forward, right? So this motion is a musty. Now, the problem with that is that this is a lot harder to do than the other version, which is called the reverse musty, which is like this, right? Where we're, instead of going nose first, we're going back of our car first, right? Ahead. The back of our car goes ahead because we're like this, right? And then we backflip through it. And this is a lot easier. You might be confused like why, but it's going to become very simple, right? So for example, from ground setups, if you just pop the ball, it's very hard to pop the ball and then do this flick. So like, this is super, super difficult. Like I probably can't even do it like consistently, because I wouldn't even go about practicing this, right? Because it's like, from the ground it's super easy to defend and it's super awkward to do, and it just gets really hard. So I would go for the reverse musty, right? Which is again going backwards. Now I wouldn't do it on the ground at all if I were you, because I don't think it's very good on the ground. I think if you're on the ground, you're better off doing any of the previously mentioned flicks, and especially if you're high ranked, just master the 45-degree flick. It will help you the most, right, on the ground. But if you're going into the air, that's when the musty flick really gets kind of its power, right? So there's a lot of things you can do with a musty, but let me show you why I would not do a regular musty, right? So let's say I go for a flip reset musty, right? It's one of the options. Now I get the flip. Now how am I going to do the musty motion there? Like how am I going to do it, right? It gets really, really awkward really fast. So you get the flip. Now you're like, how do I, it gets super awkward. You're like, you just can't quite do it, right? Now, why is the reason for that? because it's just bad. That's really all I can say. The regular musty is really bad in a lot of setups. So what would be better in these setups? The reverse musty. So I get the flip, and then I tilt my card down, and I backflip through it, right? It's so much more comfortable for like any plays off of the wall, and in the air at all, to go for a reverse musty. Because the thing is with the reverse musty is that you can often stay on the ball and continue up like the play with whatever you want, right? So sometimes you're just gonna musty it straight in, sometimes you're gonna musty it to the backboard, right? So like if you get the reset, if you're doing this of course, sometimes you're gonna musty it to the backboard. I'm not even fully consistent at the perfect musties and stuff, because this is even more practice than the previous two flicks, because this is a lot harder. But the thing is with the musty is you have a lot of options when you go for the reverse musty, which you don't have if you go for the regular one, right? So that's the one thing that I want you to kind of understand and realize is like the regular kind of motion is kind of bad. So just do the reverse, right? Now, for the reverse, there's a couple things that you don't want to do, depending on what the play is. You don't want to flip cancel your musty. So a lot of us, when we're like shooting, for example, we learned that that it's cool if we like flip cancel, right? Like this, we just like cancel or flip. It's like super cool. But the thing is, you don't want to cancel like the flip like this in a lot of cases. You just want to backflip fully through, and you just want to let it happen with musty flicks in specific. So for example, if I go like this, right, and I go for, let's say, a ceiling musty, right? You see how I don't use my right-left stick here to cancel this flip? I'm going straight, and I'm just mustying it through, right? I'm just letting the entire flip happen rather than, canceling it midway through. Now, a play where you would want to cancel the musty is a sidewall musty. So if I go off the sidewall, right, and I want to get a touch and then stay on the ball close, like this, right, and then go for a reset afterwards or whatever, then you do want to cancel it. So it really just depends on the play that you're going for. But in most plays, right, like this was super useful to cancel, because then I do end up getting closer on the ball. Because if I do this with cancel, or without it, sorry, I'm not able to stay close to the ball. So if I try, because it's kind of hard for me because it's already muscle memory, see, I'm not going to stay on the ball, like, I'm just going to flick it away from me. Like here, it kind of worked out, but like, again, I was so much further away from the ball. The distance between my car and the ball was a lot bigger than it had to be, because I didn't cancel, right? So you do want to be canceling if you're going for sidewall musties like this, where you pop it in the air, and then you go for a musty into a touch. But this is very advanced. It's like, I wouldn't do this until you're like GC plus for sure. But this is definitely like still a super useful thing to learn once you're like GC2, I would say, right? And now the thing with musties, again, for ceiling musties is what a lot of people are going for, right? The biggest thing that I can tell you and that you should focus on is that you just need to kind of be patient about it. So a lot of people want to rush the musty, is what I see. So they will do this, and then they will like, they want to flip and they want to just get to the ball quickly. But the thing is, a lot of the time you have more time than you think, and you just need to kind of let nature take its course. So here I'm letting myself drop. You see how powerful of musty that is? I let myself drop. So now I'm letting myself drop to ball level while feathering my boost a little bit. So I don't fall like kind of too far away, if that makes sense. But like I'm not rushing myself to this ball. So I'm being patient. Now I get down. Okay, well this was kind of a bad setup, but the point is like, you let yourself fall closer to the ball on ceiling musties. So see, waiting. Okay, bad musty. That's fine. The point is, if you rush yourself to this, right? A lot of the time, it's gonna get a lot harder for you. to kind of, you know, be able to score. Because the thing is there, I got the musty, right? But I went so fast that, like, I have no good double tap to score with. So, like, the best musties are usually the ones where you're, like, you're waiting a little bit, like this, and then like that, right? And you can actually, firstly, the ball falls down, right? The ball is not going to be as close to the ceiling, which means you get a better angle at goal, right? Because if we're, like, up here, right? If we're up here, if you look at the goal, it's a lot smaller, right? The higher we go, the kind of less angle you have towards goal. But the lower you are, guess what? The angle to goal goes a lot bigger, right? So if we're going for musties and we want to score, right? Then it's going to help us to have the ball drop down, and then we have a much better angle. Firstly, at the backboard as well, you know, for double taps, and secondly, you know, obviously the goal itself as well. If we just musty it straight in, so I wait, I'm patient, and then I do the musty, right? So that's kind of the main thing with musties is that I see a lot of people doing wrong is they're not very patient, right? They're like rushing it. So if I try to show you what it kind of looks like if you're rushing the musty instead of taking your time, it's something maybe like this, right? Where you're like, and now it's like the ball's going super fast, you're going super fast, and it's a very, very difficult double tap to hit, right? So like, whenever you're going for musties, be patient. It's the same thing actually with flip reset musties, where it's like, I get the flip, I just wait, and now the ball falls down to me, and you see how I let the ball fall down to me, and then I went for the flip, rather than just like right away flipping. It's like, I'm not getting the flip, and then like instantly, like trying to do something, because it's just never gonna work. So instead, you take your time. Okay, that's the worst touch ever. So you take your time, right? You pop it off, you get the reset, wait for it to drop, boom. No power there, but the technique is good, right? The technique is good, and that's where you want. Because eventually, once you get enough, you get good enough at the technique, you're gonna get a lot of power in these as well. Now again, I'm not even perfect at this, but the thing is, this is super, super useful to learn, and you know, because shots like that are super hard to save, right? So this again is kind of for more advanced players, for more high-ranked players. If you're below GC, I wouldn't even go about learning musties. I genuinely think it's just not a very good idea. But if you're like a freestyler, or if you just want to, you know, practice them because you think they're fun, you know, you can do it, right? I'm not stopping anybody. But the competitive edge from musties comes when you're a lot more patient, right? So the way, kind of one more thing with the musties is like you have a lot more options when you fake as well, or like when you wait rather, right? Because you can, if you're rushing, you're instantly showing what you're doing. Whereas if you just wait here, right? Now here I could do a pop reset like that if I am waiting instead of instantly musting, or instantly kind of making a play, right? I could also fake like that. So where I can not even musty, and I can just fake the musty and then go back into an air dribble. Kind of a bad setup for it, but if it looks something like this, right? So I'm like faking the musty, and then I go for just an air dribble touch into a flip reset, right? You have a lot of options. Or if you do go for the musty, you know, you can just musty it into an air dribble quickly and get it dunked, because they think, you know, you're going for a slow play, and then you end up just rushing it and go fast. Or, you know, you can actually take it slow. You get a lot of options when you don't insta musty, and it's the same thing with the ceiling one, right? Where it's like, if we do this and I do this motion, I can now just go to the ground and then, you know, pass it middle or whatever. Like, I have a lot of options when I wait. So I'm waiting. Okay, I don't want to musty. Wave dash on the ground. Shot. Obviously, a lot of the time, you're not going to have that type of, you know, time, unless you're playing ones, maybe, right? Someone is going to usually challenge, but if they do, you always, you know, got to be aware of them. And then as they challenge, you know, you can hit this ball, and you can kind of make the next play afterwards, right? So those are really the main things that I've got for musties. And now, the next flick that I want to talk about is the breezy flick, which is basically just a musty with some air roll. So instead of, you know, like I said, like off the ground, it's like really hard to do this motion with the musty, like the reverse musty motion off the ground. So what people did, or what breezy did to circumvent this is that they would air roll to then be able to make it easier, right? They made it easier by kind of just air rolling through it. So, but the thing about the breezy flick is that the number one tip that I have for you guys with breezy flicks is don't train them. Don't do them. Because it's super difficult to do, right? It's very, very difficult to pull off. And the thing is, like, I've scored like maybe 1 or 2 like good breezy flicks in ranked games. The thing is, like, in most ranks, at like pretty much every level, it's not very useful. It's very easy to read, it's very easy to defend, and in like pretty much every scenario, like if you're on the ground going for a breezy, you know, I would say the 45-degree flick is a better flick, right? I would much rather have my opponent try to do a breezy than try to do a really good 45-degree flick, because the breezy is just super inconsistent, right? And the best way to look at it is like, what do the highest level players do? Like, even the guys with the best mechanical skill, right? Because you say like, oh, you know, oh, it's super hard, but then, you know, if you get really good at it, then it'll be really good, right? Well, it's kind of wrong, because the thing is, most pro players are, you know, like mechanically thousands of light years ahead of players like you and me, and they don't even do the breezy flick. So like, why should you, right? What's the point of learning a flick that has pretty much no competitive viability? And the only real thing for the breezy flick is just that it looks cool. Like, there's not really any reason to practice it. There's not any reason to do it. There's really no situation in the game, I think, as well, where the breezy flick is genuinely like the best play. Like, in most situations, you're better off doing a musty flick. Now, the only reason I would ever do a breezy is kind of like as a musty, like this, where you're like some people will call this a breezy, some people will call this a musty, but it's just, you are adjusting with air roll, but it is still like a musty in the same, like, some kind of sense. So, like, off the ground for breezes, I would never go for, genuinely. And now on to some kind of ways to use these flicks, right? So let's say you learn a bunch of these flicks. How do you actually incorporate them into your game? How do you use flicks? So the first thing I'll have to talk about is conditioning, right? With flicks, the most important part of, you know, the non-mechanical side of flicks is the kind of conditioning of your opponent. So let's say that I think that I have a really good 45-degree flick on me, right? Let's say that I want to use it, and I do use it consistently. So let's say I'm in a ones game, or even, you know, a twos game, whatever, and I go for this flick multiple times, right? Maybe I score once, maybe I go for it again, you know, I hit crossbar, pretty close, you know, and I go for it again, and then, you know, they get like a close save, whatever. I've gone for this 45-degree flick 3 times now. So, what do you think the opponents are going to expect this next time that I'm dribbling? Guess what? They're going to expect this 45-degree flick again, right? So now what you do, instead of the 45-degree flick, is that you just fake it. You go for this, they challenge, you drop the ball from your car, you drop it onto the ground, and then you go around the other guy, and then you score. Whatever, right? The thing is with flicks is you can't just keep flicking the ball. You can't go for the same flick over and over and over again, because it's really just not going to work if your opponents have any sort of brain cells on them, right? Which eventually they're going to. They're going to adapt, and your flicks are just not going to be going in, right? They're either going to challenge you as you're trying to get your setup right, or you're trying to get your flick, and they're, you know, just going to dunk you, or they're just going to play and cover the save, and, you know, they're going to get an easy save because you're just kind of getting an easy flick on the net, right? So the way to counteract these two problems is very simple. Like I said, the first one, if they're challenging, just drop the ball low 50. So the way I would do it is, boom, I see him challenging, okay, drop it, boom, low 50. Sometimes you don't even need to jump. It kind of depends on how high they jump, which you're just gonna have to kind of figuratively understand yourself. Like if they're jumping really high, and they will literally just go over the ball, even if, you know, without even basically hitting it, then you don't need to jump. But a lot of times it's a safe play to jump, just so, you know, if they do get any touch on the ball, you still are there to 50 it, and you will end up winning those 50s, you know, all the time, right? You will always kind of win these 50s. So I would definitely say that's like one thing that is super important, right? And also about conditioning is the type of flick you do, right? So for example, if I'm constantly, you know, setting this up and I'm taking a long time, because, you know, the 45-degree flick sometimes takes a long time for you to set up, right? Maybe when he's challenging, right, he thinks I'm setting up to 45, I'm actually just ready for the front flip or the speed flip one. Because the speed flip one is always going to be really quick, right? You can really quick release the speed flip, and it gets a lot of height, so then you pop it over your opponent, right? And then you have an open net or whatever, if you beat them, right? So that's why it's like, it's super, super useful to have kind of different flicks in your arsenal, if that makes sense, so you can like pop out multiple ones. Because if you're always going for the same flick, it's going to be really predictable, it's going to be really easy to defend. So if you're like always doing this front flip flick, like eventually it's going to kind of get old, right? So if you instead do 45s, and then you catch the ball again, and then you do a front flip one, it's like super, super good, right? You like kind of, you expand your kind of threat on the ball, if that makes sense. So that's the first thing, right? Conditioning. Now, secondly, with flicks. Flicks are not just a way to score. They are a way to get a beat on a person. So let's say I'm on defense here. Like, kind of on defense, right? And let's say this ball goes, okay, not there. But let's say it goes in this kind of area, and I'm in my corner. Right? Now, I see my opponent is coming close, and I see he's challenging. That was a little bit too low, but... So basically what I'm trying to get at is you can use flicks to pop the ball over your opponents. So here, I see he's challenging, I can do the speed flip flick. Kind of messed it up there a little bit, but the point is that you can use a flick on the move like this, like the speed flip one. Like this, to just get it over someone and then still, you know, keep control if you have to beat a second guy. Or if you don't have to beat a second guy, literally just, you know, to get the open net. So here, I don't need to catch this. If I see he's challenging, I can just pop it like this, right? And it's like, it's kind of a flick. You might say it's not, but like I would still kind of say it's a flick. But like you're using the same motion as the flick, either way, right? So even if you don't want to call it that, I mean, I don't really care. Whatever, that's up to you. But it's like, you're doing the same motion, right? So then you end up getting it over this guy, and then boom, open net. We scored, right? So like, flicks have a lot of kind of niche use case where it's not always just a score, right? Like sometimes if your opponent's just close, you could literally just do the speed flip flick. I think it's the most common flick for this, which is to just beat a person, right? It's to literally just get like, instead of trying to score, you literally just speed flip flick, okay, over one, and then boom, you jump, okay, I missed. But like, boom, and now you see the other guy's challenging, you get it over him, backboard, boom, teammate scores, easy, right? Because a lot of the time, in twos, one of the people is going to challenge you when you take time, so you just go over him and then shoot around the other guy. I've had so many goals in ranked games like this, where it's like, you know, I flick over one, who's instant challenge, and then I jump quickly and I pop it over the second guy. And I either, you know, go straight in, or a lot of the time it's just, you know, an easy assist for your teammate. Basically, there's just a lot of ways that you can kind of outplay this. Now, the third kind of niche case is a pass as a flick. Right? So a lot of the time you can also use flicks just to pass the ball. So if we picture that there's a teammate on the left side of the field here, what I can do is I can literally just flick it like that towards him, and then I can, you know, go upfield. Maybe he passes back to me, maybe I go for a redirect, maybe he just goes for a solo play, whatever. A lot of the time you can flick the ball towards your teammates with really good coverage, right? Let's say he was on the left there. Okay, now he's on the left here, left side of the field, left side of the field. I see him. Okay, I don't catch the ball, GG's. He's on the right side of the field here, right? Flick it over to him. Maybe I go for demo after. I like that play a lot as well. So for example, let's say that we're in a 2v1, right? We're counterattacking because one of the opponents, let's say he overcommitted into our corner. So now we have possession and we're going on the counterattack. What I can do, or really this can be in all sorts of attacks, if I'm being completely honest, where In twos, you just kind of, you flick the ball, and then immediately from the speed, you go for a demo. But this would be from like a further away, right? So we flick it high, okay, we don't flick it high. We flick it high over like here, and then we instantly go boom, boom, kill that guy, right? Easy. Let's say there's a guy in the back left corner here, boom, demo, get the demo, teammate scores. So a lot of the time, like from, again, the momentum that you get from the flick, okay, there's a guy back post, yep, boom, dead, easy goal. So I kind of want you to think of flicks in all sorts of like playmaking ways, right? So don't be like super stuck on, you know, I have to score with this flick, and like if I don't score, you know, it's bad. Like, you know, a lot of people get very stuck into the mindset kind of I need to do, you know, crazy stuff with this flick. I need to, you know, just always score, always get it on target, always like. The thing is, Rocket League is a very kind of, it's a very interesting game in the fact that the play will always go on and you can always have another chance. So you don't always need to kind of be tunnel visioned on the goal itself, at least not right away, right? Because like all of these situations that I just showed you, the conditioning thing is going to condition your opponents to kind of think differently. So let's say they insta-chow you, right? A lot of the time they're going to insta-chow, so then you just pop it over them. Guess what? Next time they're not going to insta-chow. They're going to be scared to insta-chow because you popped it over them the last like 2 times, for example, right? So it's just kind of like flicks have so much versatility, and that's why I think they're like one of the most powerful things in the game. But like they can go from one of the most powerful things in the game to one of the weakest if you're very one-dimensional with it. So like if there's anything you kind of take away from this video, I want it to be this. So like don't be too like stuck in the flick. Like I'm not going to dribble this ball the entire field and then go for a flick just because I want to score, right? With the flick. Sometimes it's not the play. Sometimes it is the play. But don't force it, you know? Kind of be fluid with it and be like, okay, I'm going to go for this dribble and I'm going to intend to flick. But like if something happens, I'm going to change the play. Oh, he's insta-challenge? Okay, I'm popping it over. You know, I don't need to instantly score with the flick. If he's just challenging, I can just pop it over. If he's not challenging, I can literally just keep going here. Keep going. I'm looking at him. He's in back post right now. Okay, he's waiting. Now I flick it over him. You know, there's a lot of versatility that kind of just gets lost, I think, in a lot of people's flicks. Because honestly, I'm in like GC2, GC3 lobbies right now, and I don't really see people, you know, with great flicks, even up here, right? Which is like, if you're able to do good flicks and kind of change what flicks you do, like based off the situation and stuff like that, you're genuinely going to be so much better than everyone at your rank in this skill, right? So if there's anything you kind of take away from this video, I would have it be that. So this is really all I've got for flicks. It's basically very simple. The main thing is you need to know the basic technique, right? You need to know the technique for the flicks. You need to know kind of the basics, right? Like I kind of talked about in this video. So now you have them, right? So your steps moving forward now should be, realistically, that you're gonna go and, you know, you're gonna do these drills, right? You're gonna go into the training pack that I showed and practice your dribbling. If you're not, you know, if your dribbling isn't at that great level yet, you're gonna do this drill where you literally just drive around the map, right? And you're gonna pick up this ball, right? And you're literally just gonna carry it for a little while. You're gonna do the drill where you're gonna practice whatever flick you're on, and you know, you're gonna do this repeatedly. And that's what I want you guys to do next, right? Because I want these videos to be actionable, right? I don't want to teach you guys stuff that you're gonna be like, oh, yep, got it, and then, you know, you're never gonna apply, you're never gonna actually do in games, and you're just gonna keep playing the same exact way. So I feel like I've said this so many times now, but if you do take anything from this video, it should actually be this, on third thought. So just do them. Like, just practice them. It's generally that simple. If you never do, then you're never gonna get better, right? So that's all I've got for you guys. And if you guys are interested in one-on-one coaching, you know, where I review your replays, I'm a coach on Metafy, where I basically just, you know, I break down your replays that you send me, and I'll kind of just get your main mistakes down. You know, I'll kind of point out what you're doing wrong, and give you, you know, simple fixes how to basically stop doing your mistakes. And kind of guide you towards that kind of path of improvement. So if you guys like this video, if you guys like how, you know, I explain stuff, be sure to check out the meta file link, you know, in the description. It does help me a lot. So thank you guys for watching this video. I appreciate it, and good luck in your games. I will see you all in the next video. So peace out.